Today is Thursday, June 10th, 2010. I'm Jason Howell.
I'm Ray Fiedelman.
I'm Donald Bell.
I'm Molly Wood. Welcome to Buzz Out Loud, CNET's podcast of indeterminate length. It is episode 1255.
Whoa.
And Apple was splashed across the Drudge Report yesterday.
It got drudged.
It got drudged. Gizmodo.
All they did was give up the email addresses of the most influential people in the country.
In the world.
Who also happened to own iPad 3Gs.
That's right.
And possibly 100,000 others in addition to those 14,000
Yeah,
super
true, yes.
influential
Not to
people.
mention, exactly.
Yeah, so turns out there was, I don't know if you could call it a leak. It was more like a brute force attack launched by a super shady faux security company.
It was a leak, but it was coaxed.
It was coaxed.
It was gently,
No, it was a brute
teased
force
out.
attack,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's
actually,
what-
you're right. It was a script attack.
It was literally a brute force
And
attack.
we're not even going to mention the name of the company behind
We're not.
it.
But
because-
obviously it's a very reputable company.
You can tell by the name. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. If we were to mention it, you'd probably go to their website and get yourself fired. So we're going to go ahead and tell you
Keep
that.
that off the air.
We'll just tell you about the
NSFW.
news.
Yeah.
Apparently, it is a breach that indicates that the iPad 3G specifically, as a result of the way AT&T stores data about you, can be vulnerable to spam marketing and malicious hacking. Now, so far, all the disreputable security company was able to do was uncover email addresses
Right.
and then the actual identifier for the SIM cards that associate a mobile device with a particular subscriber.
Right. What they did was they took this what is it called, the ICC-ID or something, the SIM card identifier for the iPad 3G only the cellular ones.
Right.
And they fed it into the AT&T site, and they got email addresses back.
Right.
And they did this by guessing these ID numbers. And once they did that, they were able to match them up to email addresses, including people like Rahm Emanuel, moguls at media companies, the
Harvey
military,
Weinstein, Michael Bloomberg.
yeah, Diane Sawyer, etc.
Yeah.
And 114,000 emails and associated iPad 3G ID numbers were paired up. And that's kind of bad. It's not the end of the world, although that is a killer list to market to, I'm telling you, for spam. I mean, come on, these are
really.
people who all own iPads,
Yeah,
3Gs.
it's-
It's a who's who.
It's disposable income central.
Yeah.
It's a gold mine. No, it's interesting. They've got this list, where they blacked out the, luckily the names, but it's like at us.army.mil, at nasa.gov, at faa.gov, at usdoj.gov. And that's not even including Ann Moore, the CEO of Time Inc., and, the CEO of Dow Jones, and so on and so forth.
I did read in the Times piece, though, that the military people involved, at least, they can't use an official military account when they sign up for the iPad service. So
Oh,
at least
really?
they have a secret email that's not going to be
They're
compromised in this
dummy
whole thing.
accounts. Yeah, hopefully
okay. everybody
everybody was using. I mean, I feel like part of the problem here is that you're required to sort of activate with an email address, which I
Right.
guess you're required to with almost everything these days. But I would hope that at some point everybody's using kind of their spam account
But
of some sort.
yeah, but why would you? Because it's your billing account. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
So the thing is, the question is, how bad is this? Now,
Right.
of course, now these emails are out, which is bad. But the question is, what can you do when you have the email and the iPad identifier linked together? Can you control the iPad? Can you tell where it is? Can you spoof it? Can you intercept data? And people
it sounds like no.
well, it sounds like it, but people are saying different things. They don't know yet.
Yeah.
So with a really sophisticated attack, you could probably spoof the network to think that one computer is Rahm Emanuel's iPad and get data, his 3G data, or his location. So it is potentially dangerous, although people haven't yet. They're not sure that is possible.
Right. I mean, most of the security analysts I've seen quoted seem to be saying like that's bad. The way that AT&T was storing this information is bad. There is theoretically this possibility that you could associate more personal data with these accounts, but it would be very, very hard.
Right.
Because any of the other data is one would hope stored on much more secure servers. So right now the impact is just email addresses are out and terrible PR for
the
AT&T.
worst, yeah.
And Apple's just letting him twist. Apple is like not saying a
No
word.
official statement on this at all.
No, Apple's like, oh no, that is AT&T.
Yeah. Those guys over there.
Yeah. Now yesterday Steve was mad at New York Times. Today he's mad at AT&T.
You gotta wonder at this point, like, how bad is this relationship? I mean, are they just passing each other in the hall, like, No.
Can't
Or
talk
maybe
today.
Apple's secretly funding this to uncover this
Yeah.
to create
That's
a
kinda
little
what
bit
I
of
was
a-
wondering.
an
Or-
out of there.
Yeah, or maybe the people
breach of
that's
contract.
Yeah. Maybe the people behind the research company really want the iPhone and the iPad on another carrier. So they just kind of did this, threw it out
Exactly.
there to kind of sour the relationship.
I like the way
There are
you
so
think.
many conspiracy theories you can come up
For
with
all
here.
of
Now-
Steve Jobs' anti-porn stance, though, I don't think he'd go with a name like they chose for the
Yeah.
name of this organization.
Now,
No.
speaking of conspiracies, the question here is: did the security company that
job.
did this hack, did they give the information to AT&T first or not? And reports on this differ. They say they did, and that AT&T shut down the vulnerability, which they have done, before releasing the information to the public. So it's like, okay, we screwed up, but it's done now.
But
Now-
AT&T
but-
says they didn't find out until Monday
but-
that they were informed by a business customer.
Right. So AT&T is saying, no, the security company didn't tell us. Because when the email came from this company, they're probably like, that's spam.
Yeah.
So they deleted it because it's a revolting email. So that is up in the air still as to who knew what and when. And it does shine a light a little bit on the whole kind of gray hat nature of these security companies that basically brute force a hack. They see a potential vulnerability, they try it, they find it, and then what do they do with this? Obviously, security experts are in the business of making money. So then, what do they do with this information about how to hack into something? And that's a long-standing, interesting ethical argument. I mean, what do you do when you know that a company is it has a vulnerability? Do you give it to them for free? Do you make them pay? Do you go through an intermediary?
I mean, ultimately, it's
Is it-
helpful that
yeah.
they uncovered this and that AT&T has now hopefully fixed the problem and
Yeah.
fixed the potential for something like this to happen again in the future. So in a way, it's a service to everyone that they uncovered it.
Yes.
Yeah. And AT&T is at
But
least
then
now being.
why was Gawker the first company to report it? Gawker, remember, the company that paid for
Pays
the
for
iPhone.
stories, Yeah.
Well, yeah, you got to wonder how much they paid for to have that company call them the security people.
Yeah. But I think that
Whose name can I?
the part of this that's sensational.
We'll just say it begins. Can I just say it begins with
a G.
begins with G.
Okay. And it
I'm
ends
just
with,
saying we don't want you to get fired by going to their
It
website.
begins with G and ends with oh god. Unsee.
What kind of security company is this?
Yeah.
The ironic
Exactly.
thing.
It's a 4chan security company.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The painfully ironic thing about this is that just like 2 days earlier, the Washington Post had run this whole big story about how the entire inner circle of the White House is rocking iPads.
Oh yeah.
Well,
not anymore.
And that's
The
what I was
thing
going to say,
to
but
do.
that's I think the sensational part of the story is that to say that this is something specific to the iPad and that that this same vulnerability couldn't happen on some other device or some other SIM connected device
but
through AT&T.
it hasn't.
It hasn't.
It hasn't. And what AT&T was trying to do
yeah.
is make it all super, super easy. So when you went in to the site with your ID number or something, it would pre-populate your email, which was just dumb programming.
Yeah.
And that's been fixed. Now if you go in with your ID, now you have to enter in your email so you can't discern it from a script attack.
But I think that at least the part of this that Gawker's going at is that this is going to be a cooling off of people wanting to buy iPads. And
Possibly.
I have a hard time.
I don't.
believing
Yeah, I don't buy it,
especially
yeah.
AT&T. I mean, it seems like a pretty easy patch to make.
Which has been made.
Yeah,
Yes.
which has been made. So, I mean, I don't know if this is really something that's going to completely turn people off the idea of buying iPads or any kind of SIM-connected device
I don't-
just because of this potential vulnerability of getting their email out.
I doubt it.
Probably not. I mean, but when you see things like this, you got to wonder, this was such an easy and obvious and stupid vulnerability and an easy hack that you got to wonder, what are the hard ones out there that we don't know about? I mean, that's just my paranoid
Well,
brain.
what are the
paranoid
other-
nucleus here firing and going, this was so brain damaged that there must be even worse ones out there that we don't know
Oh
about.
yeah, exactly. Well, and that crosses devices. I mean, really, at some point, if you would get worked up about this enough to not buy an iPad 3G, now's the best time. You know, it's like fly the airplane right after the crash or whatever. Like now's the best time to buy an iPad 3G because it's now locked down tight.
By that
But by
analysis,
the
I'm going,
paranoid analysis, you would just never buy anything
right.
connected
Right.
to anything.
Yeah.
Kill the Gibson.
By that analysis, by the way, it's a great time to buy BP stock.
Oh.
Oh, thanks for taking it there.